Hello, Deanna. Welcome to Power Women Wellness. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to swap back our podcast today.
Yes, I was just thinking the same thing. I'm like, this is fun being on the other side. Now I get to interview
Yeah,
you.
I love it. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. Well, before we get into all your routines and habits and just wellness in your life, share with us who you are, what you do, just like a little quick snippet.
Yeah, so my name is Deanna Merlino, and I always say that first and foremost, being a mama and a wife is my most important thing above all. And then outside of that, I wear all of the hats, literally all of them. But my main focus is being a energetic coach and a healer. And I've really just blended that together to offer all the things, whether it's energetic sessions, coaching sessions. I do mentorship for entrepreneurs. So just really all the things, retreats. Retreats are really where my heart's at. So that's the
Oh,
end goal. But we do retreats 2 to 5 times a year. So really ramping it up there. I created an online healing membership for people virtually to tap in and kind of get that retreat experience in person as well. So that's really what I stay busy doing. And then just learning along the way. I love to learn. Like I am that girl who gets all the certifications, not for that like deep seated, like I want to feel like I learned something. I am like a
yeah.
knowledge addict. And if I hear about something that is like remotely cool and I have a good experience, I'm like, add it to the list. I need to learn
Yes,
it. I will
please.
be able to offer this with people.
Oh my gosh, I know. Even my husband's like, okay, you're getting your doctor. I'm almost done. He's like, there's no other degree. Granted, there's certifications, but he's
Yeah.
like, there's no other degree, right? And I'm like, no, this is
No,
it.
we
I'm
did
like
it.
famous last words.
Yeah, that's me. That's
I
me.
have like five doctorates and thousands of certifications. I'm just kidding. But I do love it too. And that's why it's one of the reasons
Mhm.
why I think I love reading. Like it's just anything that I
Yeah.
am learning. And I'm like you, I like switch from nutrition. Well, nutrition is kind of forced with like school, but nutrition, and then there's like spirituality, and then there's business, and then marketing.
Mhm.
Like I'm like literally
Yeah.
like bouncing around to like all the
All
things.
of it. You know what's so funny, which I'm actually so curious for you. I did not like school. Like I did not like school at all.
Really?
So it was so interesting once I got to this other side, but now I'm like, I want to learn everything. I think it's because
Mm,
I'm learning the things that I actually want to learn instead of like, here's the curriculum you have to do, right? For now, it's like, oh, I'm learning this because I'm interested, and that feels so much better.
yes. Yes. Well, I'm curious then. So was it school or was it what you were learning? Because it kind of sounds like what you were learning. Because I would say I'm trying to go back to like community college days when you
Hmm.
had to do all your prereqs of like
Hmm.
history and things that like literally may not care about.
Yeah.
And I've always loved school. But now that I think about it, I mean, I
Mm.
just did it because I needed to. But
Hmm.
now, like, yes, being in my master's, most of my bachelor's and my doctorate, it's been all consistency of like what I like. Now, granted, there have been some classes, even like right now, we have to take like a public health class, which makes me want to like tear my eyeballs out. Because it's all like this stuff of what's going on, what we do for public health. And it's a joke, to be completely honest. But I still do it.
Hmm.
And I don't hate it. I guess I'm not as passionate. So that's so interesting. I never really thought about it. But yes, absolutely. I am much more of a school lover now that I'm in just nutrition. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. How much college did you end up doing?
I dropped out of college.
Okay.
I did just my associates, and there was like it's a
Okay.
whole backstory behind it. I went to a school for 2 semesters, transferred thinking it was like within the same like SUNY school district type thing. I don't know if that means anything. I don't know if that's like all over, but essentially they were sister schools. So my credits were supposed to
Hmm.
follow. Well, once I moved, and they did not follow. So then I essentially went to school again for 2 semesters. And
Mm.
then I kept going, thought that I was graduating. And they were like, hey, whoever did your like onboarding missed a couple of the like main, it was like math 3 and like whatever, like silly stuff that I needed to do. And I was like, so you're telling me I have to go again, like on top of that? And I just
You're like,
wasn't
F
called.
it.
I was like, I'm just done. I'll come back if I want to. And then it turns out I'm
Yeah.
glad I didn't because I didn't need
Yeah.
any of it anyhow. So It was what it was. But while we were talking about that, what came to me, because I was like, why didn't I like school? I heard the force of it, like being forced to take this
Mhm.
class, being forced to be on this timeline, like, I don't like
Yeah.
boxes. I just want to do it because it feels good or because I'm called or passionate. So I think that's what it was for school for me,
Mm.
was like, there was no freedom in it.
Yeah, for sure. That is definitely something I'm ready to retire. Like when I love
Mm.
school, so that is leaving school. I'm like, I will not miss like a deadline. I will not miss any of that. But I do love one thing that I do love is that I am forced to be in the latest research. And that is like
Mhm.
easier said than done when you're running a business and are wearing all these hats and you have so much going
Yeah.
on that yes, practitioners are supposed to stay up to date with research, but in reality, life gets busy and then you're like, shit, I haven't been in it for months. I haven't read anything new in months. And for school, I have to. Like I'm
Yeah.
forced to be in it. So there's some forced things that I
Mm.
appreciate and I'll
Yeah.
miss. But some like I won't. But I can definitely see, yeah, community college, associate slash like beginning of bachelor's, it kind of sucks because you do have to be forced to take all
It's
these
like the core
classes.
stuff.
Oh, it
Yeah.
just sucks. So I do
Mhm.
I do agree, but then it gets like really awesome. When you're in your focus. And then I think too, just like the end goal for me has always been to get like a doctorate. That like
Yeah.
it to me, I'm like, I don't care. I like that's my end goal and
Yeah.
that's
It
like
was
what
just
I'm
that
hardcore
was your game
focused on.
plan. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I
I had no
love
game
that.
plan. I was like, I'm just here because I think I have to be here. So it was kind of like
Many
that.
people feel that
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. But I love that like this career path that you've fell into, which where did you like, I don't know, where did this passion come from? Like, how did you learn about this? Were you just
Yeah.
nonchalantly like listening to something and then you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta
No.
check this out?
A couple things. Life happened, trauma happened, all of the things happened. So it was like when I was introduced to energetics and kind of just the healing aspect of stuff, which I was like, that's a thing. Like I'd never heard of this before. It was very much it was like, oh, there's another way. It piqued my interest because I'm like, there might be
Hmm.
another way for me to deal with all these things I've experienced in my life from childhood on. So in that sense, I was interested, but at that point, just interested as an experiencer per se, like the
Yep.
person receiving it. It wasn't until I started my own business as a personal trainer when I realized that everyone was really there for a more internalized reason than they realized. Like it was like
Gosh,
I
yeah.
was there for they were seeing me as a counselor. Was the biggest thing that I realized. Like in my head, I'm like, I just want to help you get a nice butt. And you're here, like it, right? Like, and you're expecting me to help you through your boyfriend cheating on you for the 20th time. And for me, it was like really easy to see, like, okay, you need to work on your self-value. You need to, like, this is coming from a pattern of, because it was always like, oh, this is the 10th relationship in a row where I'm cheated on all the time. And like, it was just naturally becoming like, there's something far more deep-seated going on here. Or even just
Yeah.
like, I want to be in a bikini this year because what? And then it would be like deeper and deeper and deeper, looking at that self-confidence was coming from a much deeper need. And that's when I realized like people have so much stuff to unpack and look at. And that's when
Yeah.
I was having such good experiences on the receiving end that I was like, you know what? Maybe I could help people deeper than the surface level stuff of just, I want to look good. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's
Yeah.
really where that came from.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We see the same exact thing. It's the physical ailments.
Mhm.
Like I guess I want to lose weight or I have acid reflux or I'm bloated. And health is just very holistic. There's so many moving
Exactly.
parts to it. And it can't be, I always tell people like, yes, diet is huge, what we talked about, but like stress and sleep and environment and inner thoughts and rewiring like brain
Yeah.
connections. Like, oh my gosh,
All of it.
it's a lot and it's all of it. And that's why I don't think we'll ever truly understand like root causes for, chronic illness because
Yeah.
it's usually a little bit of everything that just tends to like overflow and it then turns into cancer and like these chronic illnesses. And they're like, what happened? It's this one, and maybe there are some cases it's one thing. It's like, well, you were exposed to this
Right.
toxin in the
Yes, of
environment.
course.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. But for the most part, it's just build up. And so the energy part and people's thoughts too, we totally feel like we're like, I feel like we're like therapists in a sense,
Yeah.
even though we still refer out to therapists because it's not in our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot to unpack with patients. And so it is
Mhm.
more that than meets the eye. And so that's why it is tough in this day and age where we're Amazon Prime mentality and they're just like, give me that like special thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's not how it works.
Yeah. And it's like I want it right now.
Yeah.
It's so funny when I actually just left a session that we just briefly talked about. And even though I'm so familiar with things take time and this is a
Yeah.
consistent I'm so aware, like this is my field. I know that. I felt a part of me, an old part of me be like, well, do I go back again? Because I didn't have this brain blowing experience the first time. And it's like, no, this isn't a one and done thing. Like this is
Yeah.
a process. But that
Yeah.
you're so right. Like that's the mentality of people now is just like that Amazon
Yes.
service
Next
of
day,
like, I
same
ordered it,
day.
it's at my doorstep right now.
Yes. Yeah. Same day even got us
I
some
came to
more
you, I
spoiled.
expect it fixed right now.
2 day was fast. And now it's like same day. You're like, oh crap, we're getting worse and worse with our
Literally
expectations.
worse and worse.
That's so funny. Which, yeah. So, okay. So tell us, mental health is, it seems like it's a huge part of your life. So
Yeah.
before we started recording, you did talk about like starting to do a new therapy that I've never heard of. So tell us more about it.
Yeah, so from my understanding, it's called spinal flow, and essentially it's a mixture kind of like chiropractic and energetics if you mushed them together and made a baby. And so I don't know if you've ever seen a video on like Facebook or Instagram, just scrolling one of the weird ads. And it was like I saw a practitioner with someone laying on the table and they just had their hands above them and they just like boop, just a little tap on somewhere on their spine and they start rolling like a wave, like literally like their whole body starts rolling. And so me scrolling, I'm like, what is this? Like, I just need to know what this is. And that's what it was called. And that was like 2 years ago. And I looked, it must have been like fresh out of the gate a couple years ago because I looked and there was only people in like other countries essentially, or like maybe California. And I was like, okay, didn't think much of it. Well, it was like a month ago, I saw another one of those videos and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like, let me look into this again. Me being the girl who loves certifications and everything, like, I wonder if I could learn this and help people's spines. I don't know, like late night thoughts. And I looked and there was someone less than an hour from me. And I was like, oh yeah, totally want to give this a try. Booked it. So I went today and essentially they do like a bunch of they check your posture, they do a bunch of assessment tests, they see what you're dealing with physically, emotionally. And she just like ran her fingers down my spine and like pressed on my hips a little bit. And essentially she was like, okay, you have no chemical issues going on, which would make sense. Just like I use all non-toxic products, special water filters, organic food. Like I'm very mindful of what goes in on my body. So she was like, that's great. She's like, physically, you're a disaster. And I like kind of assumed that I'd been in a car accident. So like physical stuff I do deal with, even though I take really good care of my body, it just is what it is. And then she also is able to assess like your emotional well-being. And she's like, I can tell that you take really good care of yourself, but you have stuff that is super deep seated, like really deep stored traumas, especially in my womb space, which makes total sense. And so I'm like, okay, so she essentially was like, get on the table, just did her little boop boop with my spine. And it was crazy. Like my chest just started rolling. And she was like, it's really interesting that your chest was moving because that's like, if you know about the chakra system, it is slightly related to the chakra system as well. And she was like, normally, like your heart space opening, that portion of your spine activating, she was like, that's not something that happens without a lot of treatment, a lot of consistent treatment, like opening and activating that part of your spine and your heart space. And she was like, yours was rolling the whole time. So I'm like, well, that makes me feel really good because clearly my heart's doing well. And we've worked a lot on that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That is, I've never heard of that. That's
Oh, it
so
was wild.
interesting. I from this day of April 15th as we're recording, my mom actually had a heart attack last Friday. And
I'm so sorry to hear that.
yeah, it's been really tough to navigate. It's my first time like kind of going through like she's alive, but just not well and being an
Yeah.
end stage kidney disease. It's like we only know what's gonna happen. So I've been like preparing my heart and like pre-grieving in a sense. I think to
Mm,
maybe just get ready because I know what's coming.
Yeah.
And shoot, where was I going with that? There's a reason. I think when my mom came out of it and she had to do CPR for 40 minutes, so long time.
Wow.
And so it is pretty crazy that when now talking to her a couple days later, she doesn't remember. She actually lost a couple days in memory. So she
Wow.
had it on April 12th, and on the 8th, what she was her last day, she like knows. And so
Wow.
I know that the body holds trauma, and that it protects us from it. So it will
Yeah.
even make people forget when it's something so traumatic.
Yes.
And I know that even what I was reading a couple minutes before, or maybe even a couple hours before someone has something traumatic like that, like cardiac arrest, it usually before you go unconscious, your body doesn't have enough time to store the memories. So before you go unconscious, so that's why some people will not remember like right before, they realize they're
Wow.
having a heart attack. But it's just crazy that even she's missing a couple days. And it's just like the brain is incredible. Like I think
So
that's
crazy.
crazy to protect yourself. Your body holds that trauma from you. And so that's why even when working with patients, when they go through like traumatic things, and I mean, we'll deep dive into history of like what they have going
Yeah.
on, and they've never once brought it up. And then later on, like months and months and months later, they'll remember this huge trauma. And I'm like, whoa, like, why didn't we talk about this? Or like, why is this not on your timeline? This is huge. This is a
Mhm.
massive trauma. And it's just, I don't know, maybe something just made them remember it, but they're like, I didn't even remember. And I'm like, gosh, our bodies are, whew, whew.
Big time. And that's a safety mechanism as well.
Yeah.
When you're not ready to unpack and process and look at and feel and like just go through these things that have happened to you, it will stay stored. And it's actually so funny that you brought that up because it's like something that I've learned as holding space for people and also for myself going through all of these healing sessions. But like my back, my lower back, which was the biggest thing that happened to me in my car accident, hasn't really bothered me for quite a while. And the last 48 hours has been killing me. And when I was on my way to the place today, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, because it's ready to release that stored trauma. Like the rest of the time, it's just coping. It's like we got to go through life. Our spine needs to be in what like a good state. So we can't
Yeah.
like deal with this pain. But when I was going to a safe place where I could unpack the stuff, and our trauma gets stored there too, just in general, it was like, okay, we have stuff to release and you're going to feel it. But it's that, again, your body's so smart. Like when it knows that it's time to look at stuff, or you know that you're going to go into like a retreat or a healing session, it starts to like, all right, we know we can start opening up the floodgates of all the stuff that needs to come. Our bodies and our brains are just so crazy.
It is. And can you by chance like explain and speak more of that? Like what does it mean when it stores? Like I just find this fascinating. And I started
Mhm.
listening to the book, The Body Keeps the Score. I never finished,
Yep.
but it's on my Audible. I think I maybe got, I don't know, maybe 5 chapters in, but this is fascinates me because again, this is a
Mhm.
part of like wellness that it takes a little bit to work through. And so it's not something first where people are like, oh, I can take a quick supplement or I can change my diet real quick. It's like it's
Yeah.
work to get through that. So I don't know, can you speak more on that? I just think it's fascinating.
Yeah, so when you get into a traumatic event, and let's talk about trauma for a second. Essentially, trauma is anything that is out of the normal for you. So if you are taking a bike ride and you hit a pothole and you fall off and you hit your knee, that is a form of trauma. Like anything, like normally that doesn't happen to you. So a lot of times we hear trauma and it doesn't have to be these massive things. And I say that because a lot of times what I've experienced in retreats is people will start to like, there's a specific word for it, but essentially like trauma, like my trauma is bigger than yours, or like, oh,
Mm,
I need to talk about a bigger trauma because they just trauma dumped something massive. So like then that's not, if you're not ready to look at something, we don't want to do that, right? So just to talk about trauma in that way, is trauma can be so many things to so many people from A to Z on the spectrum. But what happens is when your body can't process it in the moment because it's such a shock to your nervous system, like your nervous system does not have time to process it. It almost goes, we'll look at this later. we need to survive. Like the focus is on survival. And so it will literally store itself in an energetic format in your fascia, in your muscle tissue, in your organs, in your anywhere. It will literally store itself. And to take it deeper, why it's so important to heal, because obviously when like, yes, there's physical stuff, or like you were talking about, like maybe you were this toxic chemical made you sick. But there is an energetic root of stuff too, of like our unprocessed emotions, this unprocessed trauma, where it will lead to dis-ease or disease when you don't
Mm,
process it. And here's the thing that ties it to our subconscious is our subconscious mind only exists in the now moment. So even though like all it knows is the now, it doesn't know the past, it doesn't know the future. And so if you have all of this trauma stored in your body, in your brain, way deep down there, you're still in this state of trauma. So that's why people, one of the reasons why people get stuck in this fight or flight all the time, because they have so much unprocessed trauma, grief, what fear, shame, all these things. Emotion literally means energy in motion.
yeah.
So all of these lower emotions or experiences that we don't want to feel, we're energetic beings. That is
Yeah.
in our body. So it's so, so, so important. And it goes hand, like you said, we're multidimensional beings. It's all of it, the physical, the mental,
Yeah.
emotional, the spiritual, all of it. You can't, like one is not more important than other. One
Yeah.
is not like,
100%.
it's like if you take one of them off, that's like taking a wheel off your car, you're not going to drive very well, right? Like they're
Yeah.
all equally important as far as like functioning as humans and for a physical body.
Yeah, for sure. I know even there was, hold on, I was writing down a quick, okay, just don't want to forget this. Okay, perfect. Even when there was a class that I took and walking through just like questionnaires, and obviously there was like symptoms and stuff, but at the very end, there was a little questionnaire that asked like, do you feel like fulfilled? Do you feel like you're doing your purpose in life? And the professor, he was, I think, a naturopath, but he was explaining that like all, these patients that have these symptoms. And one of the roots when we get to that question is like the people that don't feel like they are fulfilling their purpose, they don't know their purpose. Um, honestly, they're kind of a mess, like physical health wise. And one of the biggest changes was when they actually started to develop that and understand that, and all their physical things started easing up. And it just, again, it was just like goes to show like the body is so complex, and it's, yes, there's healing things, that food, things we can do to our body physically, absolutely. But
Of
I
course.
cannot forget the mind, the spirit, like all of those. It was like you said, are all equally important.
Mhm.
Um, so I love that you do this. And one of the questions I was writing down, so I won't forget, was what are some of the things that you've done that really has helped, like just helped your emotions, like helped going
Mhm.
through just the different stages, whether maybe you've had a season of grief or you've had a season of anger and being hurt, like how, like if you had to do one or two things that really helps that not be stored in the body, what would be your suggestions?
Yeah, and I mean, I can definitely speak on this too as someone who has just been through traumatic stuff, but my dad passed away a couple years ago, and that was obviously I was 3 months postpartum, so like that
Ugh,
is not
worst
something you
timing.
want to deal with, like being postpartum in itself. And so I was so grateful to have had some of these tools. But I think as far as like one or two, my go-tos are always going to be somatic healing. So for me, the biggest one like I like to lean into is somatic shaking. So I love to start my day every day. I will put on like either like a high frequency tone or even just like a feel good song. And I will literally just jump up and down and shake my entire body, shake
Mm,
it all out. And before I do that, I set the literal intention. I set the intention to release any lower energy that is no longer serving my greatest and highest good. Because again, all of it stores in your body. And so
yeah.
you release that by moving it out. So I set that intention and then I'm shaking out my whole body and just jumping around like a lunatic for a couple minutes. And
Love that.
it's how I start every single day. And it's so good when you're in it too. Obviously, like if you have a tough patient and you're in the public, you probably shouldn't just start doing that. but like it's something that you can use to get through anything, like to process an emotion. If you're feeling grief, if you're feeling anger, I love me a good like angry shake, or like an like stomp it out, just get it out of your body, right? So that's probably my biggest go-to.
Mhm.
I also love to do real quick EFT, emotional freedom technique, tapping on my body. So our meridians are essentially energetic highways within our body. And when we have something super traumatic happen, it can get stuck. So you can literally tap on these, there's different places on your body. You can YouTube it, it's super simple. But it will release that stuck, trapped. Think of like a when like the road shut down and you remove that, the whatever, the thing to get it out of the way, that'll help clear that stuck energy in your body. So that's a really good one to do too. But something that I live by, I tell all of my clients to do it. I tell everyone to do it. It's like my secret thing, but I share it with the world. I do energetic cleansing baths. If I can do them every night, it is like the thing that I try to do as much as possible. But if someone is dealing with a lot of anxiety, depression, grief, anger, to do this for 21 days straight, it will change your life. So you essentially, you can make it as fancy as you want, but just get into a bath and put in either Epsom salt, or I'm drawing a blank right now. What's the pink salt? The pink Himalayan salt. Put that in your what's the pink salt?
Salt.
Put that in your bath. I use crystals. You can do it at just that. Like you can literally leave it at just that and it will still do it. I like to utilize crystals. I'm a crystal healer. So I set the intention of the crystals. Again, I set the intention to remove and release any and all lower energy that is no longer serving my greatest and highest good. Put them in there. Just sit in the bath, because it's using the element of earth. That salt will literally pull out any of these impurities, any negative energy, any low vibrational energy, any low frequency energy from your energetic field, which is around every single one of our bodies. So
Mm,
all of these heavy and dense emotions we're feeling, like your brain's going to get quieter. Like all these racing, crazy and anxious thoughts or depressive thoughts, you're going to watch them literally dissolve away. It's insane. So
that's
for anyone
amazing.
listening, if you haven't done that, do it for 21 days straight. You will literally come out a different person.
I love that. I'm totally gonna title this episode of like caring for our emotional wellness because, like I said, we
Mm.
always talk the physical things. Like, yeah, I mean, which I'm down for like a good bath too. But I love that we're speaking more on the emotional side of taking care of
Mhm.
your body and your energy because it's just as, just as important. So I love that you
Yeah.
shake in the morning. I love that. What are some other morning rituals? And this you can, fit in some like favorite food and beverage and stuff like that. But what
Yeah.
are some other favorite morning things you do?
Um, so I literally start every day with, first thing when my eyes open, I do a gratitude list, and I used to like physically write it out. I don't have time for that. So I literally just say it out loud. Like I'm about like easy peasy stuff, right?
Yeah.
But just very much like the moment my eyes open and I'm still groggy, like I am so grateful that I woke up today. I am so grateful for the love I have in my, all the love I have in my life. I'm so grateful for the roof over my head. I'm so grateful for the birds chirping, whatever. Like I want to start my day on that positive note. I want to take control of my day. And then I set an intention. I am the queen of intentions. Like
I love
I
that.
have to set intention, because in my mind, if I set an intention for the day, and that's not saying that it's going to go perfectly, but it's where my attention and my focus is going to go. So if I set that intention that I'm going to have a beautiful, fun, blessed day, it's going to be full of love, full of joy, and it'll be an easeful day. Okay, so what happens when I stub my toe? Cool, that could be the beginning of a spiral, or I set that focus to be on a good day. So I'm going to keep looking for the good things in my day. So if
Yeah.
I don't, it's easy to just start going down in a
Yeah.
spiral. When you spill your coffee, you're late for work, you hit the red light, someone's yelling at you, like all the things. So I like to put on my blinders. That's an intention for me, as a blinders for what it is that I'm going to focus on for the day. And then I get up and I have water. I want to get my organs functioning and alive and well again. Um, and then really it depends on the day. If my husband is home, he is the literal best. He makes me breakfast every
Mhm.
time he's home, which is amazing. If not, I'm having a protein shake for the day, more than likely. I do not love, love, love to cook. So that's just an easy, light
Mm.
way for me to start the day organic fruit, a clean protein, and that's how my day starts. And if I have if he's home, it's easier, but I like to do like maybe some journaling, maybe some meditation time in the morning if I can. Now that it's finally getting to be warm out here in Western New York, I will sit outside with tea in the morning on the porch. So it just depends,
Mm.
but that's really what my mornings look like. And my son is included in all of that. He will be following me
I love
wherever
that.
I'm doing anything. He's also there.
But I love that you, even being a mom and even having young kids, like you're making this a priority.
Yeah, have
And you're
to.
setting a great example for our
Mhm.
kids. And I think I saw something too, like on Instagram and oh, I know it was my friend. And she is such a go, go, go person, and she really has trouble slowing down. And I did comment, I'm like the queen of slowing down. Like that is my jam. Like give me like a Netflix show that I can just like chill and watch all day. Oh my gosh, I love it. So for her though, I remember saying like, but we need to for our kids. Like we need to give our kids an
Mhm.
example because if they see us always being busy, not knowing how to rest, and obviously we're also taking them with us, then they won't learn how to rest. And then we
Yeah.
just like keep going into this cycle of generations of like hustle and bustle, go, go, go. And when people rest, they feel like they're failing. Like I am
Mhm.
not productive today. Therefore, I did not do good when no, like
Like
you
having
deserve
to
a rest
earn
day.
it, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And just not being content with just resting.
Mhm.
So I love that you're doing that because it is such a good example for the next generation of like
Mhm.
this is what wellness is like. It's these little tiny things.
Rest. Oh, big time. Rest is literally the most productive thing we can do for ourselves. And
I
I
agree.
will be the first person to say, I am wired as go, go, go. But I'm with everything you just said, like, I am breaking that though. Like, my dad was gone before I woke up in the morning and home after I had gone to bed.
Oh,
And he was working to try and provide for the family. He was very successful. He thought that's what he
yeah.
learned. This is what you do. You have to provide and comfort and have the money to do all these things. But as a child, I just like I wanted the attention. I wanted the love. Why is dad never around? Even if he was on the property because he was doing something, but like he was never around. And I learned to be go, go, go from him. And so even though
Yeah.
it's a struggle to remember to slow down, I know wholeheartedly I do not want to pass that and I will not pass that on to my son. So yeah,
Yep.
that's a big part of why and why it's so important to do it even when it'd be easy not to.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And letting the day take a hold of you. Absolutely. And what
Mhm.
about your nighttime? Anything special that you do at night that is like non-negotiable? You absolutely love it, calms you down, gets you good sleep.
Honestly, usually the baths for me, like that
Yeah.
is it's almost some I do it almost every night, but really I get my son down and then I just take a moment to like you know when you like take your bra off and you unbutton your pants or
Yeah.
whatever and let your hair down that moment, like that's that moment for me when I put my son down. And it's really great because my husband's been on nights for like 6, 7 years and he just switched to days. And now we spend our evenings together. So it's actually
Oh,
been like, I'm still figuring it out because normally that would be my
new
time to go to work.
routine.
Yeah, now it's our time to reconnect. So nights have become really special for me because even if we're just watching something on the couch
Yeah.
together, which like at this stage in my life, that's it for me,
Blissful.
right? Like that's I wait all day for that moment. Yeah, that's what my evenings look like. But a lot of times I will have a nice cup of tea, maybe put some ashwagandha in there, some saffron, like whatever I need to just have that moment of relaxing.
Yeah.
Evenings are I don't have as much of a schedule for evenings. It's
I
just
love that.
unwinding thing.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I've gone back and forth with seasons of like mornings being just a little bit more low key and then evenings were very structured. And then now I feel like I
Mm,
changed it. Like mornings are very
yeah.
structured and evenings are like, what do
Yes,
I
me
feel
too.
like? Like it just depends on what
Mhm.
I feel like. Could be watching a show and absolutely doing nothing. Some of it's still being a little bit productive after dinner
Yeah.
time, maybe doing some late night work. It just kind of depends. And I think that's just the
Mhm.
beauty too of entrepreneurship. We do have
Oh,
that ability, or you can, I guess, have a work from home job that's very flexible that you can do that too. But it's definitely one of
it's
my
the
favorite things.
best. It's the best. Like, I'm so grateful. Even if that just means like I can choose to clean during my son's nap, or I can choose to sleep
Yes.
during my son's nap, or I can choose to work during my son. Like, the choice is just magic.
Yes, 100%. And I know that
Mhm.
you said you love learning. So do you have any like books or podcasts that like just come to mind, like hands down, you're like, this was a game changer for me?
Yeah. So the podcast that I kind of like was the catalyst for this entire life for me is the Manifestation Babe podcast. And it's Catherine Zenkina. She has been around for I want to say at least 8 years now. She started her podcast, and I am that person who has binged every inch of it from front to back, like her hundreds of episodes. But it's so like funny in the beginning to hear how it's changed as she was learning and stuff. But really in the beginning, it was very like tip based and hands on, and like this is how you do this. And so I loved that. And now it's more into the like um energetics or like stuff in her life because she's a very successful entrepreneur. But that is my go-to. That changed my life. That taught me all about manifesting. That taught me about energy healing. That taught me about putting yourself first, creating the dream life. And that's kind of how I created my dream life. So
Oh, I love
if
that.
someone hasn't listened to that podcast, I highly recommend. I absolutely adore her.
I love that. And any books, and this could actually be fiction too. If there's like a book that you're like, oh my gosh, it was so good. It threw me into like this fantasy world and it was amazing and made me rest. Books, nonfiction,
Um,
fiction.
So I don't read any fiction. I am actually on a little bit,
Okay.
that's not true. I was gonna say I'm on a bit of a book break, but I'm the girl who will read 8 books at one time. So I haven't been doing that. So that feels
I
like a
can,
book break to me. But the one book, and I'll keep it very simple. It's called The Uncommon Dialogue with God, or Uncommon Dialogue with God, or Conversations with God.
Mm.
There's like a double title. And it's very controversial, and it changed my entire life. And I think everyone on earth should read it. If you are someone who is open to being stretched out of your comfort zone and seeing things from maybe a different standpoint, I mean, it's amazing. It's beautiful. It's incredible. But maybe some of the things that we were taught might not be
Mhm.
what's portrayed in the book. And truly, like I mail it to friends. Like I'm like, you need to read this book. I'm literally shipping it to you. Like
Oh.
everyone, our world would be a better place if everyone read it.
Oh, I love that. I think we talked about this on your podcast, how we're eights, Enneagram
Yes,
eights.
yeah.
Yes. So, obviously our name is the Challenger. And I definitely, yeah, that's me. And
Mhm.
that's actually something this year that I've even like challenged spiritual or like things that I've learned. And for full transparency, like I guess Christianity would be the closest thing that my beliefs are.
Yeah.
But even just, yeah, I just challenge my thoughts and what I've been traditionally taught and utilize, I don't know, just you feel, but through this journey, it was crazy because my beliefs never changed. Like my belief in
Mm.
God, my
Yeah.
relationship, that stayed very close. It did not change a bit, but it was more so of, yeah, like what we see in the outside world. And I think that was like my huge trigger is seeing people say, and again, everyone's like entitled to their own opinion and beliefs,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
the Halloween stuff, like basically you're going to hell if your kids are dressing up for Halloween. Like just the intensity that I've seen or has happened over social media the last, I don't know, couple of years, which I
Yeah.
know it's coming from a good place, but it's so intense. And it just felt like it made me like take a second to be like, wait, what do I believe? Like, and what I believe is like, and what I hold dear
Mm.
is that relationship with God. It's so close. And he's shown in my life so many different ways that I couldn't even deny it. But it was more about like just modern day religion. And that is what I started like questioning. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it's kind of been like a journey that I've been on, but also very weird that again, that common core of like my relationship with him has not changed a bit. Like that core belief hasn't, but it's just like the societal norm, I guess,
Yeah.
of what is right and what is not right, what you're going to go to hell for, what you're not. And it's just like also just like letting all that go
Mhm.
and just focusing in on that relationship. So I'd be very curious to read this book. What do you feel like your biggest takeaway was, or the thing that maybe challenged you the most?
I don't know if you want me to say it.
Say it. No, say it.
Okay. So the biggest thing in the book that was conflicting, I would say, and I will say most of the book was very like 98%. I was like, yep, 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 yep. And then there was a couple of spots where I was like, I have to sit with this a little. Like I need to like, what is my
Oh.
truth? Because at the end of the day,
Mm.
I truly believe that what matters is your truth and your relationship with God. That like that's
Yep.
right, like you just said. But essentially that heaven is a place within our heart that we choose to bring to earth or not. There is no hell.
Mm.
And we are essentially choosing, are we living in heaven or hell in our reality? Um, and that the devil's not real. And it was
Wow.
very conflicting. But the more,
Oh.
and I'm probably going to do a hard time butchering it. I'm probably going to butcher it, but essentially, it made sense when it explains, when the book explains so clearly. But when I look back at my experience with religion and just a lot of things felt very forced. A lot of things felt very judgy. A lot of things felt very just so fear-based and so like,
It turns you off. It's like exactly like,
yes.
ugh.
Yeah, and I started to really tune into what felt true to me. And I believe that God is an unconditionally loving God, and that we're not all just gonna, if you don't do it this way, you're gonna burn in hell for eternity. Like that just never sat right with me. And it essentially breaks down to when we look at rules in society and culture, they're created to keep us in control in a sense. Like not even saying in a bad way, but like society needs
Right.
structure or it'll
Right.
just be the
Right.
Wild West, right? Like there
Right.
really does need to be some sort of law
Yes.
and that kind of thing. It essentially explains that somewhere along the line, the powers that be created this uh, individual or presence or existence to have an ultimate, like you have to listen to this or it's going to be really bad, as a way of control in a sense. And just the
Interesting.
way that it really breaks it down, I'm like, that just kind of makes a lot of sense. And like when you really think about it, and going back to, that's why healing is so important, because I love
Yeah.
universal laws. And one of the universal laws is the law of correspondence, which is essentially is as above, so below, and as within, as without. Our internal world shows up in our external reality. So our external reality is a literal representation of our internal world. And so if you're
Mm.
healing actively and working on growing and evolving, you see the world differently. You
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
the world differently. You can come from a place of love and understanding and compassion instead of a place of anger, fear, judgment, shame, all of that, these projections, right? And so it
Yeah.
kind of makes sense in a
Yeah.
way that we are in control of if we're going to experience heaven or hell in this life. Because think of the people who are literally living in hell in real time,
Yeah.
are the people who are blaming everyone else, have given away all
Victim
control,
mentality.
are victim mentality. Everything bad happens to me. The world is a bad place. Like, and
Yeah.
again, read it, have your own. There's still some things where, and okay, I will say there's 4 volumes, and I'm a psychopath. I read all 4. It's like 800 pages. I read the first one and I was like, I need the other ones. And so as you go through them, they answer more evolved and they answer a little
Mm.
deeper. And so it's like a real deep dive. And I love me a good deep dive. So I was all in.
Love that. See, and I'm
Yeah.
not afraid to like challenge a challenger. Here we go. Challenge
Mhm.
myself and my way of thinking because, right, like we are all taught what we are taught. And so as we become, I think just as we become adults and start questioning things, I think it's okay to kind of, question that and not, I don't know, me, I never want to be like a sheep where,
Yes.
we just follow whatever we want to follow.
Mhm.
We definitely saw that, during the COVID era. And so I've always been kind of a rebel in that way, just using my brain and obviously what feels right to me.
Mhm.
Because it's something I struggle with is thinking like, obviously, I believe in God, but like and I guess hardcore Christians would probably be like, it is what it is. But I'm like, gosh, I just hate to think that like all these other people that believe in other religions are absolute trash. Like they're going to
And
hell.
that
Like
everyone else is going to burn
I
in hell.
yeah, I don't like that. Like
Yeah.
and maybe it's just like maybe hey, we'll never know. We'll
Yeah.
find out
We
when we
won't
die.
know until I literally have this conversation with myself, like, we'll find out.
We'll find out. We'll find out. And
I
maybe
really
maybe
hope I'm
that
doing
is
the right
right.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like shit. But at the end of the day, it's like it's hard for me to fathom that. Because I have friends who have different beliefs than I. That doesn't mean that they're bad. It just I don't know. That religion is very interesting to me. And too, like I think I was watching a cult documentary too, and all the things that we see, and we're like, oh my gosh, like girl, look around you, like, and
Just open
then
your eyes.
but then like I want to do that for religion too because
Mhm.
there's actually like a lot of similarities from like things I've seen of like when you look at it from a third party perspective you're like whoa, and so that's why I was like it's just been an interesting journey to
Yeah.
have that belief and still like feel very close and my core belief hasn't changed but maybe just how I see the world or I've just opened up my eyes in certain ways so it's been very interesting but like I said like
Yeah.
spiritual health is so important so whether but I don't know. It's just it's important to deep dive. Like you, I like love deep diving and challenging my beliefs, and sometimes that makes me feel strong in my beliefs and be like, yes, this is what I believe. Or sometimes, yeah, it makes me be like, hold on. Now that I like really
Yeah.
critically think about this, I don't know if I believe that.
I was
So
just going to say too, like, if you are so certain in your whatever it is, then what would it hurt to just look and see, right? Like, what would it
yeah,
hurt to just do that deep dive? And you're gonna either come back out having the same beliefs, which is fine, or you're gonna maybe just have a different perspective. They're all just different perspectives. I
yes,
truly believe that all religions are like there's aspects from each of them that are accurate, that are right, that are proper. But I have a hard time believing that one religion, any of them, is perfectly right, like to a T. It no
yeah,
wrongs, no human no like human error was made, no human like emotions was poured into the creation of the rules. Like
yeah,
I just
yes.
for me it doesn't work.
I know. I feel that. And again, that some people would be like, "Oh, then you're not X, you're not a Christian then." It's just
Mhm.
yeah, it's I don't know. Just pray and be like show me what I need to be like shown and
Yes.
teach me,
Yeah.
but that's the thing is being just open-minded and like yes, like that's why I respect I guess other people's beliefs and religions because it's like
Mhm.
you know, yeah, who's to say I'm right? I don't know. Again, we'll find out when we die, you guys. We'll report back.
The good news is we're all gonna die, so we're all gonna figure it out eventually.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, I love this conversation of emotional wealth, spiritual wellness, everything. So tell us where can we find you if people want to work with you? And yeah,
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, the Empowered Coach 333. My website is deannamerlino.com. I'm sure that'll be in the show notes. But yeah, whether it's spiritual life coaching or energetic mentorship or retreats or whatever it is, all the things, I am here and open and so ready to support and assist in any way that I can.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute blast.